Interesting thing reading in here, after Cristiano Ronaldo picked up his Player of the Century award. If it's the best player of the last 20 years, cool. Century, last 20 years, you could give it to him. Or the last decade, Champions Leagues, goal scoring records, you have to give it to him. But this whole thing about his son and about how what is the likelihood that his son steps into his footsteps? What is the likelihood that his son pretty much takes up the baton and pretty much be that next dude in line? It's always very hard. I mean, I remember when Jordi Cruyff came to Man United, and guys are like, "Oh my gosh, this is Cruyff's son. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do?" Did not live up to the situation. Maradona's son, not really much happened. And he says to himself, how many sons of great players actually become really great? Let's see what Justin Kluivert does. But for me, I can already tell you right now, Justin Kluivert isn't touching what Patrick Kluivert did. I don't think Weah's son is doing what George Weah did. I don't think Marcus Thuram is doing what Lilian Thuram did. So there are very few examples of sons either living up to their father's footsteps or eclipsing their father, specifically when their father was a great player. It's very difficult to do because I think most it is truly great players are very few and far between. And there's always that psychological pressure that you always have to deal with because whenever Marcus Thuram steps to the field, oh Lilian. Whenever Jordi Cruyff kicks the ball, like Johan Cruyff, Johan Cruyff. So that's kind of pressure will always eat on you. But I think it's different times, and I think what Cristiano said is that, he doesn't eat healthily, eating Coke, chips, and so forth. It's a different world. See, when Cristiano was coming up, his father was a very particular guy. And you look at the film and how his father was, his relationship with his father, and just where he grew up in, because he didn't have all the money. Because it's different. Because almost the same thing with Mike Tyson's kids. Like Mike Tyson said that, nah, man, my kids can't do what I did because they didn't grow up in Brownsville. They didn't grow up poor. They didn't, and you need that poverty and that kind of hardship to really give you that kind of chip on your shoulder to really succeed. And for Cristiano, he didn't have all the money. He didn't have all the privileges. He didn't live in a mansion, So that's forced him to really work hard. And he knew that, man, if I don't make it, I'm going back to just being a guy struggling, So, but for Cristiano's son, if he fails, you're going to go back to a huge mansion. You're going to have money. And there is no fear of failure. And I think that fear is what's motivating. I think that fear is what really motivated Cristiano to be like, boy, I have to work hard. I've got to train hard. I've got to eat well. I've got to keep it in good shape. And I've got to really maintain that high peak. That discipline comes through hardship. And the hardship just doesn't exist for Cristiano's son because Cristiano's not going to make his son suffer. Because the whole point of you gaining money is that I don't want my children to have to go through what I went through. I want them to have a great life. Obviously, teach them the values that I had and everything. But I don't want to go through what I had to go through because for Christian, I had to go through that because it is what it was. This was just the life I was born into. I was not say born into a life of privilege. I didn't have loads and loads of money. I didn't live in big, huge houses, have big, huge cars. I had to work for it. And I think that's hence why poor people are always gonna be the hardest workers and really the most diligent guys. Because most guys are just even look at a Richard Branson or sort of that the guy was a school dropout and so forth, but that poverty gave you that edge. So my thing that is very, very unlikely that Ronaldo's son is gonna turn out to be anything good. Because first off is talent. Not every great player's talent falls into their son. It doesn't happen. He may have some of it, but not the full thing, which is what we saw with Jordi Cruyff. Um, and also as well is him living a more privileged life that Ronaldo didn't live. I think will take away because the thing about success is you have to, that's fear of failure. That if I don't make this, I'm going back. Which is what Mike Tyson said. Mike Tyson said, like, if I don't knock this guy out, if this doesn't work, I'm going back to Brownsville. I'm going back to living in a shack. I'm going back to food stamps. I'm going back to serious hardship. And I don't want to go back there. So that kind of desire and hunger pushes you to really put yourself at a high level. And that desire and hunger makes you train hard, wake up early, do all the training things, eat well, have a disciplined, rigorous routine. So that's how it is, man. So yeah, it is doubtful that your boy Ronaldo's son will become good. But even if it does, you still have a pretty good life. But it is very your circumstance really relates to what you do. And I think that for Ronaldo, when you just look at his relationship with his father, where he was at, and just his life, it's always that chip on the shoulder. And I do think that maybe losing his father and everything gave him even that stronger desire to say what's up and to work hard. And I think that kind of discipline, not everyone has. Not everyone has that discipline. That is what has to be commended. And I think that discipline can't be taught. It can't be taught. It just has to be experienced. You either have it or you don't. Like that vid, hit the subscribe button, guys. Peace.